The sun blazed over the wide-open Arizona plains as dust rolled like steam from the earth, and poor rancher Eli Moore tightened the rope loops on his small herd, hoping today's cattle sale would bring just enough to repair his leaky roof and keep his land from slipping into the bank's greedy hands. Eli lived alone, a quiet man with a stubborn belief that kindness still mattered in a world full of guns, gold and grudges. One quiet afternoon, as he returned from the creek with 2 pails of water, the ground beneath his boots trembled, at first like distant thunder, and then shaking with rapid force. His heart pounded as he turned and saw a sight he'd never imagined in his wildest dreams. Towering above the tall grass was a young Apache woman of colossal size, easily twice the height of any person he had ever known, with long braids whipping in the wind, broad shoulders strong enough to lift a horse, and eyes that held both fierce fearlessness and deep sadness. Her name, she later told him, was Anaba, one who returns from the mountains, and behind her followed a group of elders, normal-sized, but wounded, exhausted, and desperate. Eli didn't reach for his rifle. Instead, he dropped his bucket, spread his hands out calmly, and said he meant no harm. The Apache elders explained in strained voices that Anaba was a sacred protector of her clan. Born extraordinary but now hunted by a rival Apache leader named Colin, a brutal war chief who wanted to take her as a symbol of power. For Anaba, it wasn't about romance. It was an attempt to force her into obedience and strip her people's freedom. They had fled in the night, with Colin's warriors on their trail like wolves hunting a lioness, and Eli, despite having very little himself, could not stand by while innocents suffered. He invited them to hide in his barn, though the giant woman had to kneel low to squeeze inside, her head brushing the rafters, straw falling over her massive shoulders. "This won't hold them if they come," Anaba warned. But Eli only nodded, saying, "It's better than running with nowhere left to run." As night fell, the sky split with the sound of approaching hooves, Colin and his armed riders, torches raised high searching for the clan. Eli quickly stepped outside before they could storm his barn, knowing he needed to stall them, even if it cost him everything. The war chief, muscular and tall but still dwarfed by the one he was hunting, rode forward with a gleam of pride and cruelty in his eyes. "We know the giant girl is here," he hissed. "Hand her over. She belongs to me." Eli's hands trembled, but not from fear, from fury. "She's a human being. She belongs to no one." The crowd of warriors laughed at the lone rancher standing against an entire army, but Colin's gaze narrowed as he noticed Eli's property line stretching between the two. Feuding Apache clans, prime land that both sides desperately wanted. What Colin said next wasn't a threat, it was a promise. "If you keep her, you join her fate." Eli swallowed his fear, then spoke boldly, his voice rising with courage even he didn't know he had. "If she's going to be tied to someone, then she's tied to me, my wife." Those final 2 words stunned everyone, including Anaba, listening from the shadows inside the barn. The lie wasn't meant to claim her. It was a shield, a statement of protection, so Colin couldn't legally or honorably take her by force. Silence stretched across the cold desert air as the warriors gripped their weapons tighter, shocked by Eli's audacity. Colin's lips curled into a deadly smile. "Then tomorrow," he growled, "we settle this. If you live, you keep her. If you die, she kneels." With that, flames from torches flickered against darkening skies as they rode away, leaving the ranch drowning in dread. Inside the barn, Anaba rose to her full towering height, her voice firm but grateful. "You risked your life for me." "Why?" Eli didn't look like a hero, dusty, tired, scared, but his answer was simple. "Because no one deserves to lose their freedom." And in that moment, a silent vow formed between them, not of romance, but of unbreakable alliance. Eli knew tomorrow could be the end, but he also knew that standing up for what's right is what gives life its true meaning. The next morning arrived far too quickly. the first rays of sunlight stretching across the rugged land like golden fingers, waking the battlefield waiting to happen. And Eli stood outside his cabin with dust blowing at his heels, hands clenched into fists to hide the trembling beneath his skin. He had barely slept, knowing Colan and his warriors would soon return to take Anaba and punish everyone who dared to defy him. Inside the barn, Anaba knelt quietly, towering strong, yet uncertain. Her eyes filled with worry not for herself, but for Eli, the ordinary man who had chosen to face extraordinary danger just to protect her freedom. "I never wanted you to fight for me," she said softly, her voice carrying a weight that shook the boards of the barn. Eli smiled weakly, adjusting his old hat. "Some things are worth fighting for, even if I lose." Before more could be said, the rumble of hooves echoed like rolling thunder across the desert. Colan arrived with hundreds of warriors, dust clouds rising behind them as if the earth itself were fleeing from their wrath. They formed a wide circle around the ranch, no escape, no mercy, while Colan rode forward, lifting his spear and shouting, "Bring out the giant girl and the small coward who stands by her lies." Eli stepped forward alone, shoulders squared even though his knees threatened to buckle. Anaba burst from the barn in a single stride, towering high above everyone, sunlight glinting off her braids as her shadow swallowed the ground around her. And Colan's confidence flickered ever so slightly. "Eli is not a liar," she announced, voice booming with unshakable strength. "I choose my path, and today I stand with him." The warriors raised their weapons, shouts growing wild, but suddenly hooves thundered from the opposite side of the valley. Everyone turned to see Anaba's true clan. Hundreds more Apache riders rushing forward, banners flying high in the wind. Among them was her older brother, Chief Dasan, tall and fierce, leading the charge to protect the sister, who was not just family but sacred protector to their people. Surrounded now, Colan's smirk vanished, replaced with a realization he no longer held power here. "This is a clan matter," he barked, desperately grasping for authority. "The giant belongs to our tradition." Chief Dasan nudged his horse closer, staring Colan down. "Tradition? You mean control. You mean fear." Then his eyes lifted to Eli, and yet a stranger with nothing gave everything to defend her. Freedom. The moment turned, silent as the plains wind, brushed through the tall grass, everyone waiting for the spark that would ignite a battle or bring peace. Colan, refusing to back down, challenged with a fierce scowl, "If the rancher claims protection over her, then let him prove his courage. One test, no weapons, a fair trial of spirit." Eli could barely breathe. He was small, outmatched, scared, but Anaba knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand over his shoulder like a shield made of strength and trust. "You already proved your courage," she whispered, "but if you take this challenge, you won't stand alone." Her words filled Eli like a fire. Courage wasn't about size, strength, or even winning. Courage was choosing to stand up when everyone expected you to fall. He stepped forward and said, steady and determined, "I accept." The trial wasn't violence, it was endurance. Eli would have to stay standing inside a ring drawn in the sand while Colan tried to break his will with shoves, intimidation, and taunts. 3 times Eli stumbled. 3 times he rose back up. On the 4th shove, he hit the ground hard, dust filling his lungs, but he looked up and saw Anaba watching him with faith so strong it lifted him before his body could decide otherwise. He stood again and stayed standing. Chief Dasan raised his voice first. "Enough!" Colan, panting with frustration, stepped back. The giant woman's clan cheered. The rival warriors lowered their eyes in reluctant respect. And in the quiet that followed, the war chief finally knew. The battle for control was lost. Colan rode away with his warriors, swallowed by the desert horizon. Anaba knelt beside Eli again, but this time with pride gleaming like sunlight in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, voice soft as morning wind. Eli smiled, still catching his breath. "I didn't save you," he said. "You saved me." From feeling small. Laughter and relief swept over the ranch. Chief Dasan placed a friendly hand on Eli's shoulder. Our sister chooses her path, and today that path led her to a friend worth honoring. As they rode away to safety, Anaba waved, her giant silhouette fading proudly into the mountains, free to live her life her way. Eli stood alone again, but stronger, braver, no longer just a poor rancher. He had faced a war, and one with nothing but heart, and he would never forget the day he learned that true courage isn't measured in size, but in the reasons we stand up. If you enjoyed this powerful Western adventure filled with loyalty, bravery, and respect, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss more incredible stories like this.